Her name was Dorothy. She lived to 83. She never once had a chiropractic adjustment. She never bought a lumbar support cushion. She never slept on a special mattress prescribed for her back. She never asked anyone to help her carry the laundry basket upstairs. She carried it herself at 79 without thinking twice. Her granddaughter stood beside her once, at 41, already managing a recurring lower back issue that her physical therapist had told her was chronic. Dorothy watched her granddaughter stand up slowly from a chair and said nothing. She had never stood up slowly from a chair in her life. Back pain is the #1 cause of years lived with disability worldwide, a position it has held since 1990, according to the Global Burden of Disease Study 2021, published in The Lancet. Nearly 60 to 70% of adults globally will experience it at some point in their lives. The global chiropractic market was valued at $19.6 billion in 2024. The ergonomic chair market was valued at $12 billion in 2024. Dorothy had never heard of either category. She did not need to. What Dorothy had were 10 habits so ordinary she never thought of them as posture habits. She would not have understood the phrase, "Nobody on her street used it," because nobody on her street had the problems the phrase was invented to solve. She had no standing desk, no lumbar roll, no posture corrector strap, no core strengthening class she attended on Tuesday mornings, no weekly appointment with a professional whose job was to undo what her other hours had done to her spine. What she had were 10 habits. The habits were the part nobody sold her, because the habits were the part that actually worked. Then something changed, not the human spine, not what a back actually needs to function without pain for 80 years. What changed is exactly what this video is about. Before number 10, subscribe. This is exactly what this channel is here to make. Number 10. Dorothy never sat for more than an hour at a stretch. Not because she was disciplined about it, because there was always something else to do. A pot on the stove, a child who needed something, laundry that had finished, the floor that needed sweeping. Her day was not divided between tasks and rest. It was a continuous rotation of tasks that required her body to be upright, moving, and in different positions throughout every hour. A 2019 study published in Applied Ergonomics found a direct association between chronic low back pain and prolonged static sitting posture. The human spine was not designed to remain in the same position for extended periods. The intervertebral discs depend on movement to receive nutrients and clear waste. Dorothy's discs were never static for long enough to be deprived. The ergonomic chair market exists primarily because sitting for 8 hours a day in an office is now the default human experience. That default did not exist in 1958. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 9. Dorothy carried things correctly, every day, for 50 years. She carried groceries home from the market. She carried laundry baskets upstairs. She carried children. She carried coal. She carried water. Not as an exercise program, as the ordinary mechanics of running a household. Carrying moderate loads engages the core muscles, stabilizes the lumbar spine, and maintains the natural curvature of the lower back. Research published in the journal Spine has confirmed that functional load-carrying activities, the kind that were simply part of daily life before motorized transport and home delivery, support spinal stability more effectively than many targeted exercise programs. Dorothy's core was engaged constantly, not because she trained it, because she used her body. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 1 on this list is the habit the back pain industry has spent the most money making you forget you already had. Number 1 is still coming. Number 8. Dorothy walked everywhere, every day, 4 miles minimum, to the market, back from the market, to Agnes's house, to the school gate at 3:15, back home, not exercise walks. Functional walks, carrying things, at a practical pace, in shoes with a flat heel and a sole that made contact with the ground the way the foot was designed to make contact. Walking engages the full posterior chain, the muscles of the back, glutes, and hamstrings that support the spine. Research from the American Journal of Epidemiology has found that regular walking significantly reduces the incidence of lower back pain and is more effective as a preventive measure than targeted strengthening exercises for most populations. Dorothy did not walk for her back. She walked because her feet were her only transport. Her back benefited regardless. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 7. Dorothy slept on a firm surface. Not a therapeutic mattress engineered for spinal alignment with 12 comfort layers and a pressure relief zone. A simple, firm mattress over a wooden bed frame. She had slept on it since her wedding in 1950. She would sleep on it until 1979. The modern mattress industry is worth over $43 billion globally. A meaningful portion of it is sold on the premise that back pain is caused by sleeping on the wrong surface, a surface problem that requires a purchased solution. Research published in Applied Ergonomics found that medium-firm mattresses reduce chronic lower back pain better than soft surfaces. Dorothy's mattress was not medium-firm by engineering. It was firm by default, because that was what mattresses were before foam became a product category. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 6. Dorothy's shoes had flat heels. She owned work shoes with a small, modest heel at most. She did not wear stilettos. She did not wear platform shoes. She wore what fit the work she was doing, and the work she was doing required walking on flat ground, standing at a stove, and climbing stairs. High heel use alters the alignment of the entire kinetic chain, tilting the pelvis forward, compressing the lumbar spine, shortening the calf muscles, and shifting body weight onto the forefoot in a way the skeleton did not evolve to accommodate. A study published in the journal Gait and Posture found that regular high heel use is significantly associated with chronic lower back pain and altered lumbar curvature. Dorothy's shoes were not a health choice, they were a practical choice. The result was the same. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 1 requires nothing. It has no product name. It cannot be purchased. Almost there. Number 5. Dorothy bent from the hips, not the waist. She had been taught this by her own mother. When you pick something up from the floor, you bend your knees and lower yourself. You do not fold at the waist and reach down with a rounded back. This is biomechanics. The lumbar spine is at its most vulnerable under load when flexed forward. Repeated bending from the waist, particularly while lifting, is one of the most documented causes of disc herniation and chronic lower back pain. Dorothy bent from the hips because that is what her mother had shown her, and her mother before that. It was not called ergonomics. It was called how you pick things up. Occupational health research has consistently identified improper bending mechanics as a primary driver of workplace back injury, a finding that applies equally to household labor. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 4. Dorothy stood while she worked, at the stove, at the counter, at the ironing board, at the washboard, for hours at a stretch. The standing position, maintained with natural posture, keeps the lumbar spine in its proper curve, activates the postural muscles of the core and back, and avoids the hip flexor shortening that prolonged sitting causes. The standing desk market is now worth over $12 billion globally. It sells an uprightness that office workers have lost and are trying to buy back. Dorothy never lost it. She was standing in her kitchen from 6 in the morning until 9 at night. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 3. Dorothy never looked down at a small screen. She looked up, or forward, or at the task in front of her at chest height. The stove was at counter height. The ironing board was at standing height. The people she spoke to were at eye level. The forward head posture caused by looking down at a phone, often called text neck by clinicians, adds the equivalent of 40 to 60 pounds of force to the cervical spine for every inch the head drops forward. The term text neck was coined in 2008. Before 2007, the device that caused it did not exist as a consumer product. Dorothy's head was level for 83 years. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 2. Dorothy's core was naturally strong, not because she did planks, because she spent 10 hours a day in activities that required her core to be engaged, carrying, bending, lifting, walking with loaded arms, climbing stairs, kneeling in the garden. The core muscles, the deep stabilizers of the lumbar spine, are maintained through use, not through targeted exercise alone. Research on functional movement has found that populations engaged in regular domestic labor have measurably stronger core activation patterns than sedentary populations who perform dedicated core exercise classes. Dorothy never attended a core class. She did not need to. She had a kitchen, a garden, a market 4 miles away, and 3 children. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Number 1. Dorothy's body spent no time in any position it was not designed to be in. This is the one the back pain industry cannot package. Because it is not a corrective, it is an absence of the behaviors that require correction. Dorothy did not sit for 8 hours in a chair that shortened her hip flexors and flattened her lumbar curve. She did not look down at a device that loaded her cervical spine with the weight of a small child. She did not wear shoes that tilted her pelvis out of alignment. She did not round her back to reach things because her kitchen was arranged for standing use. She simply lived in her body in the way the body was designed to be lived in. Upright, moving, carrying, walking, bending from the hips. She had a mother who told her once, "Your back will tell you when you've been living wrong." She never had occasion to listen to that warning. The back pain treatment market, chiropractic, physical therapy, ergonomic equipment, pharmaceutical pain management, surgical intervention, generates billions of dollars annually. A meaningful portion of that market exists because the design of modern life put the human body into positions it was never built for, and then sold solutions to the damage those positions created. Dorothy's life was not ergonomically designed. It simply never placed her body in the wrong positions to begin with. Dorothy never had the product. Dorothy never had the problem either. Dorothy passed away in 2002. She was 83 years old. Her granddaughter helped carry her things out of the house after the funeral. She found no lumbar support cushion, no heating pad, no back brace from a past injury, no prescription from a physical therapist, no receipt from a chiropractor. She found a pair of flat-soled shoes, worn thin at the heel from decades of walking. She found a wooden kitchen chair with no adjustable lumbar support. She found an ironing board at standing height. She stood in the middle of that kitchen for a long time. She thought about how she stands up from chairs. 10 habits Dorothy never named, never researched, and never once thought to call posture management. She called it living. What changed between Dorothy's back and yours was not what the human spine needs to function without pain for 8 decades. Those needs have not changed since 1958. What changed was who got paid when those needs were replaced by a chair that required engineering, a mattress that required technology, a practitioner that required a weekly appointment, and an industry worth billions that Dorothy's daily life had rendered entirely unnecessary. Pick one thing from this list. Come back in the comments in a week and tell me what it did. If you have ever carried something that your back shouldn't, tell me below. I read every single comment. The next video is already waiting.